And there's been some news that have come out recently. Obviously, Brenden Aaronson was removed over the weekend. People were worried about him, and then there was rumors that he was coming in and he was going to figure it out. And then Taylor Twellman just made a statement, and I just heard from a very good source as well that Brenden Aaronson will not be in the team and that he's out for 2 to 4 weeks with a knee injury. So what's your take on that? Do you think it changes the preparations, the capabilities of the team, or you still think that we're sort of full steam ahead with the opportunity that we have?
We're still full steam ahead. On the plus side, you get Gio Reyna back, and he just played 90 minutes, right? So you don't have to worry about fitness. I was concerned knowing that he's back, but had he been tested for 90 minutes? That match fitness is key when you're talking about World Cup qualifying. Now, is that enough match fitness to start at Azteca in altitude? Probably not.
I don't know. Is any match fitness enough for Azteca
exactly.
altitude?
And so limited, probably not going to be, probably used from the start if you're thinking about it, if you want to be safe with him. So I think from that standpoint, you get him back, you lose Aaronson. Yes, he's a dynamic player. He gives you something different, especially on the press, the counter press movement off the ball. But I still think it's full steam ahead, and you still have your first choice 11 outside of McKinney.
Well, we're going to get to that first choice 11 here in a little bit. You and I both built our expected 11s. Now, if you were the coach in this situation, though, would Gio Reyna be a starter for you? Like, take risk out of it, but knowing the importance of this match, knowing that he came off a 90. We've talked about it a lot in the past on the Que Golazo pod around Pulisic, right? Getting him 50, getting him 30, getting him 40, getting him 60, working him back into full health. And then you get him back into the national team, whereas Reyna went straight back into 90. So clearly there's a level of fitness that he has that they trust him with, and the fact that he didn't break down. I mean, do you think that's enough to at least feature in the Mexico game?
Yes. Just before this match, he got about 27, 30 minutes to the match prior where he had an assist off a free kick. So another 90, that also gives me the confidence that he can pull this off, right? He's going to be able to be used throughout this process, but I don't think it's enough to start. You and I both know hamstring injuries. Mm-hmm. You can feel great throughout the match, and then it's the recovery process that may take a little bit longer, and you have to give your hamstring time to heal. So right. I think we will see him. I don't think we're going to see him from the start.
Let's shift our focus a little bit to Gio Reyna in this context. Is he a like-for-like replacement for Brenden Aaronson? Is he a different type of player? When Ricardo Pepi first came onto the scene, I was super excited about him. I'm still super hot on him. I think it was the wrong move for him to go to a relegation fighting club for somebody his age and the talent that he has. And I think we're seeing the downsides of that right now. But what I like most about Gio Reyna is his connection to Erling Haaland when they're on the field, just how connected he is, running off, spinning off. How important do you think is Gio Reyna being put in a spot on the field that you bring out the best in him, right? We saw when Dortmund have gone through the different changes and styles of play over the time that Gio Reyna has been there, when they push him high and wide, he's more disconnected from the game. He's less, I think, dangerous. He's good at running at players, 1-2 combination play. Whereas when he's a little more withdrawn, a little more connected to other players around him, he tends to have this real ability, especially in and around the top of the box. I mean, do you think he's a like-for-like replacement for Brenden Aaronson? And I guess, does the lineup change when he's on the field and who you want to have around him?
I don't think they're like for like. I think they're two different players. Aaronson is one that loves to, get into the half spaces. He's very quick, but there's not so much, I think, genius on the ball, if that's the right word to use. When you talk about Gio Reyna, who's very good in those tight spaces, very good at maneuvering the ball and chopping players. He's got a little flair to him, which I love. And the attitude. I think he's a little bit more aggressive and physical than Aaronson. I think Brenden Aaronson has come a long way than his early days with the Philadelphia Union, being able to take those hits and players and teams that are being physical. But I think Gio Reyna gives you a little bit different. He's an X factor. I think for Gio, when you're watching him play, sometimes you see the mannerisms and the body language that is poor at times. That's what needs to change with him. If he can be a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more positive in his play, and when players around him, maybe don't make the right decision, for him not to go down or kind of put the blame on them, kind of pick them up. He's a young player. I think he'll get to that. But when you're a young player playing in Europe, that's what happens. If you make a bad decision, you make a bad pass, they let you know. And sometimes you're like, man. And I think you pick up those traits with this U.S. team. Even though he's young, I think he's going to mature into a leader. He's a fantastic player. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's just learning, as you do, as all pros do at a young age. You're just learning as you go. And I think that will be a big benefit to him if he can start to change the way he responds when things don't go his way or his team's way.
Do you think that body language can be shaped? And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but do you think that body language, that character can be shaped, or do you think that's the type of person he is? Because you and I both have played with tons of fantastic players that just have really bad body language and are selfish or have things that are detrimental to the team. Some of them work it out and they do just enough to be part of it. But do you think that's an attitude thing? Do you think it's the fact that he's young? Do you think it's, we've also sort of romanticize this into being like the fighter or the hard worker, or they want to win so bad. Remember, Clint Dempsey had that reputation for a while of just like wanting it so bad that sometimes it came out in these ways that felt negative or misunderstood, that, they're just harder on themselves than anybody else, is that sort of thing. Do you think that can be shaped and molded, or do you think this is Gio Reyna's character and that we just need to be a little bit, I guess, harder on the players around him, that sometimes that body language is going to happen? Because you see some of the best players in the world. I mean, Neymar's that way. Mbappe's that way when things aren't going his way, throwing his arms up and his, kind of head going down when things aren't working out. Do you think that's could be something bad for the team? And do you think it's something that could be shaped or molded by good mentorship?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Clint Dempsey, who's a perfect example, all of us players in the locker room knew where his heart was, where his mind was. We knew what his intentions were. I don't think anyone was like, oh man, especially in our generation, maybe the older generation are like, hey, who's this young hotshot who thinks he's coming here to take, positions and playing time, whatever. We all knew, man, Clint's the real deal. He has this passion. He has a fire. He's an ultimate competitor. In training, if you were in his way, if you were preventing him from getting by you, you were going to feel an elbow. You were going to feel, him getting physical, and you had to fight right back. He respected you for that. And everyone knew that's kind of what you were getting into. Just don't disrespect your teammate, right? And I think that's how Clint played. Hey, I'm going to do this for my family, for myself, for my country, and nothing's going to change. I'm going to do what I need to do to win and compete. And I think everyone was kind of around that. Although the media portrayed him as, bad attitude, doesn't really talk, blah, blah. But we all knew that was the case. I think with Gio Reyna in this instance, he's not there yet. And so this group look at him because he's playing at Dortmund as someone who's got to kind of be, unfortunately, at his age, one of the leaders of this team, right? And it might not be the vocal leader, but you might have to lead with your performance. Lead by, Do
you think these injuries, by the way, Charlie, change his perspective on things? Because, you quickly, life changes quick when you get injured as an athlete, right? When you're young, especially his age, you're pretty much untouchable. You feel like you're on top of the world. You don't really warm up. You're not forced to really take care of your body, not even close at that age. Do you think some of that's not a wake-up call, but changes his perspective being on the training table for long periods?
Injuries definitely change your perspective because you sit out and you have to watch. And that's the worst because you're getting to watch your teammates play games and have fun, and you can see them on the pitch. And that's where you express yourself. You've always expressed yourself. And now you got to sit there in the training room and do massages and rehab. It's never fun. And it changes you because it gives you a different perspective. It also makes you appreciate, being on the pitch. And then you're going to do whatever it takes not to get injured, right? And learn from the things you can prevent, because you can't always prevent everything. But what I can tell you is I've met Gio, and he's an incredible kid. He's obviously his father. It's hard to step out of that shadow, but I think he's done that. And I also think, he comes from a good family. He was raised right. And for that reason, getting a chance to see how he interacts with people, he's a good kid. I agree. You've been around. I know you've been around some players where man, you got bad vibes from them, or they said something that was off, and you said, But Gio Reyna, he's a good kid. I know he's going to succeed. I think everyone wants him to succeed, but it's just those moments in the game where you can choose to either lift someone up or bring them down. And I know you want them to be performing at their best, but in some cases, some players need to be brought up.